Good morning. This is Spirit Journey. I want to comment on a YouTuber's comment on one of my videos. This comment I read yesterday, January 4th, 2018. And even though it's the next day, the next morning, and I'm just really waking up, I want to get this thought down. Now, the person's comment was from a YouTuber whose channel name is Johann Google. That is a German name, but again, as we know in YouTube, anyone could call their channel any name, and anyone could use any avatar. But his avatar, it was of a European, and again, Johann Google is a German sounding name. But whatever what this person is, what his concern is his response to my video. Now, last September 2017, I did a video and it was entitled something like the African, what's that now? It was about, I forget the name, but it's about the African presence in Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is an island in the Caribbean. It is a territory or commonwealth of the United States. They are American citizens, but much of the population there in Puerto Rico still speaks Spanish, and that's okay. Now, the video that I did regarding Puerto Rico, it was really to showcase the African culture and presence that survived the transatlantic slave trade. All of the Caribbean, South America, and North America were victims of this horrendous slave trade. And the modern world in the Americas, I see that people of African ancestry are oftentimes mistreated. They are mocked. They are mocked by even their fellow black person / African living in the Americas, ancestors of people who suffered these horrendous actions against us. The modern world of the Americas, people from this ancestry, we, including myself, we speak different languages according to which European group oppressed us. So if we live in a place like Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico, our oppressors were from Spain. So, and if you were from a French-speaking place like Haiti, Martinique, Guadeloupe, etc., you speak French. If you live in a place like Jamaica, the United States of America, Canada, your oppressor was from Britain, etc. There are more languages like Portuguese. And if you speak Portuguese, your European oppressor was from Portugal. So it didn't matter which European group or colonial kidnapped you and then enslaved you for several hundred years. Your outcome was pretty much the same. The life of a person born into the slave trade, living in the Americas, your lifespan was only up to 20-something. Modern day people of the Americas from this heritage live in disparities in contrast to their European counterpart living in the Americas. You live a shorter lifespan still. You have health disparities. You're sicker. You're more prone to die from certain disease quicker than if it was a white person. You being represented in government, that there is a disparity amongst blacks who are in government jobs, high government positions. And when you look in particular in the United States, if you look at Congress and you look who's represented there, most of the people that you see are white men. Men who historically had oppressed the African, regardless of what location he was brought to in the Americas. And so, this person who commented on my video that was really designed to showcase and remind people who are from Puerto Rico, their ancestry from Puerto Rico, that yes, you have an African component to your culture. And in North America, it's something that is hidden from the general population, those who don't know Caribbean history. I meet people, many people from Puerto Rico that deny or try to cover and explain their skin color, being that make some white Americans think that they're Italian. Or they tell their children that here when we in the United States, we're going to avoid being around non-Spanish speaking black people, that not to marry or associate, and what they call to marry, to better the race, as many times I've heard, and better the race meaning to make their offspring have more European features, such as lighter skin complexion, having a hair texture that's straighter. So, when I hear of these things happening, and knowing the history about the Caribbean, and I myself someone whose ancestry comes from the Caribbean and being lied by society that Puerto Rico is not a place where this slavery happened and that these are white people. It is true that many people of Puerto Rican ancestry are mixed very much with their European oppressors, up to like 80% genetics, European genetics. And their African genetics is downplayed. In fact, when they're given the list of the components of how much African blood, what African influence, is usually the last name discussed. So it's showing in order how they want to be perceived as. Yet Puerto Rico has a very strong African culture. The food that is eaten there and as well in other Caribbean islands or in African American cuisine, those foods come out from the slave experience. It is the food that we lived on to survive. And with that, I think that that is a beautiful thing to showcase as well. Instead, I felt that based on my experience with people from Puerto Rico, who I care for very much, that we are being taught to mistrust each other, mistrust the other Caribbean islands, mistrust blacks from the United States, and are taught that we are enemies of each other, and to make fun of how we speak, whatever language we speak. So if you're, let's say, a Spanish-speaking person living in the United States, they may feel that they're being mocked because they don't speak English the same way as other Americans. Or maybe they're not as proficient in English and they feel more comfortable speaking Spanish. I understand what it is like to be mocked by the way you speak the English language. To this day, I am mocked by other blacks, American blacks, for the way I speak English. I also resent in business that we're taught to not respect one another, and this defensiveness in like who's going to control what in business. They have us fighting amongst each other about what it reminds me of is who is going to get master's attention, who's going to get and win the favor of the white man so that I could get a little piece of the pie because they want the crumbs. And that's how I feel. Rather than saying, hey, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Louisiana, Brazil, hey, as black people, or people come from that experience, ancestors, let us commemorate and have a camaraderie with one another. Let's stop fighting and trying to get the attention and favor of the white man who has us living in squalor many times, who have poor health care and poor education, Let's stop that fighting and come together. Let us stop, I'm sorry, my computer went off. Let us stop fighting each other. We need to stop this fighting, this backbiting. See, if you always come and look at what other people of color have who are descendants of this transatlantic slave trade, we're never going to expand into greatness. We're always going to be having our hand reached out for the crumbs of the white man. And I don't want this for us. So I did the video last year to share my experience with this particular people who I'm very fond of, and my desire for us to come together. And so I did the video, and the video showcased the Afro-Caribbean dance that survived the transatlantic slave trade in this part of town in Puerto Rico called Louisa. And I was so happy when I saw this dance. I never actually saw something like this. Well, let me back up. I have seen Afro-Caribbean dance in the Caribbean, but I never saw it specifically that it was a community within Puerto Rico that was commemorating this. And so I shared it in my video for YouTube to see that this little hidden secret, as I called it, I think that's what I called the video, Puerto Rico's secret that most people don't know about. And yes, most people in North America may not really understand the history of Puerto Rico, that these are the people that you see are descendants of this heritage. Because in North America, they are classified as Hispanic, not black. Yes, they are a mixed race people. And yes, you clearly have dark-skinned black people that live in Puerto Rico. But many of the people that you do see in the United States of America, in North America, on the U.S. mainland, are very fair-skinned. And there are differences in how people are treated based on color alone. And so many people don't realize that they are a light-skinned African group or African heritage that are from there. So I wanted to educate the people, whether they're from Puerto Rico or any other island or any country in the Americas or any country in the world. We are taught in the Americas to not embrace our African heritage. We're taught that it's something that's bad, that it's dirty. And I'm saying no. I'm saying that we need to teach our children who live in the Americas, who are of African ancestry, whether mixed race or pure African blood, that we're to embrace our Africanness, our experiences that endured the hardship of this event that happened to us for several hundred years. So, it was my desire to, again, educate and to celebrate that history that survived. I shared my experiences that happened over the years living in New York City, where you have a very, very large Puerto Rican presence, and how things have happened to me and others based on this, what I call backbiting and self-hatred of one another, which is really based on us to hate ourselves and wanting to be liked by white people and to get what they have by showing white people how European you are. And so if you do this behavior, or if it's based on that mindset, to stop it and start embracing and teaching your children your African ancestry. I think it's okay to be of any race or nationality, because we're not responsible for what our ancestors did to us, but we are responsible of how we treat and what we do to one another now based on that past history. So I did the video, and this Johan Hugel had wrote his comment that I would share with you. And so I thought his comment was so harsh. I never once in my video said anything pejorative, name-calling on anyone from Puerto Rico or any race or nationality. When I present the beautiful Afro-Caribbean dance that was done in this black-centered town in Puerto Rico. And this person that commented does live in Puerto Rico, and based on his name, and that this person also said that they lived in the United States, in the Midwest. And he also discussed his education and his involvement in Latin America. Now I feel that this person probably is, based on his name and where he lived in the United States of America, in North America, that he is a person of European ancestry and does not like black culture based on some of the things that he mentioned, and his name calling about my video being intellectual voodoo. Now, voodoo is a religion or a practice that is done heavily in the Caribbean in different forms, and it is of African in origin, and that it's a practice that has survived the transatlantic relocation forcibly into the Americas, where they became enslaved by the European living in the Americas. And so I feel that he's bad-mouthing those people who practice that system, that is an African-based system, and that it's being associated with being evil. So that I reject. I also reject him saying that I was a black-washed, ugly, and then in quotes, lady. This also I consider pejorative in nature, and that he again is using the word black to be something bad and sinister. So he's really reinforcing what I am against and what I'm trying to address and correct. It is okay for Hugel to have love for the land he is currently living in. I think it's okay for him to have this love wherever where he lives. Everyone has some pride in where they live. At least I would hope so. So in that aspect, I don't argue with them. Okay, because he has a love for where he lives. So I commend him for that. But I do not commend him for name calling. And then he also says, well, thank you, because after his comment, I commented back, I explained myself. And as many of you YouTubers know, on my channel, I never name call back anyone. I always address them in a gentle way. And many times I address the initial comment as my friend or hello. And then I address the concern that the person had. And oftentimes they apologize. And this person by the name of Johan, he said, I'm sorry, and that I'm often known for being a little aggressive. And he put it in quotations, a little. And I thought that his comment was not a little aggressive, but it was extremely designed to be hurtful. My video that I did that he was referring to was not a video that was designed to be pejorative or insulting, but to awaken people who live in the Americas or anywhere on this planet that there are people of African ancestry and that it's okay to be someone of African ancestry and someone who shows and practices African culture or traditions. And that is all. And that my desire for all of us to respect each other's culture, but again, to be honest of one's experience as it pertains to how you're being treated by other people of different cultures from the Black experience. So I feel lastly that this Johann Hugel, his real issue was that I was Africanizing Puerto Rico, and that if I would have said, let me showcase Puerto Rico's European ancestry or white culture, I don't think I would have gotten the same insults. I don't think he would have said anything against me. I don't think that any Puerto Rican or person of Puerto Rican ancestry would have been upset if I showcased its European-based culture from Spain. It is a given in Puerto Rico of their Spanish heritage, but what is often downplayed are its and the rest of the Caribbean's African-based culture. And that if you remind people of that culture, that you are condemning or shaming. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about of having African blood or have an African name or something that survived the transatlantic slave trade that was handed down from generation to generation. That is what I'm against. And that is what I want to erase the hatred that is against Africa and its descendants. And so I did my video. And so it's a video that still teaches me that there is still deep-seated hatred to showcase Africa as a beautiful thing and not something to be ashamed about with this man of what sounds like a European German ancestry. He wants to keep it white. So that was my concern. And that's what I want to share with you guys. So for those who understand, thank you. And for those who still do not agree and still show hatred to the culture of Africa in the Americas, it's unfortunate. It's okay to disagree with me, but it's not okay to put me down and use harsh words and then try to cover up and say, oh, well, we're friends now. Let's see beyond that. For 2018, let's come together, people, especially people of African ancestry, regardless of the language you speak, the languages of your former enslaver. Whatever language you speak it to its best. You speak Spanish, speak the best Spanish you know how. You speak English to the best you know how. You speak Portuguese to the best you know how. If you speak French to the best you know how. Your language is to communicate. Let us communicate with precision and grace. So, feel free to comment below. The only thing I say is to not curse, use any pejoratives pertaining to one's nationality or race or color. You're free, other than that, to comment, to share this video with those you think will enjoy it, to subscribe, and to give me the thumbs up. Thank you for your support, and happy 2018 for all races living on this planet. Bye-bye.